Hello and welcome to the Summon, the African Summon, where we connect you to Africa and African culture. Today we continue our read of The Good Foot by Cameroon Nsanda Eba. To invite your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones, and have them join us for this read. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. Welcome. Chapter 8, The Film Show. There was a new teacher in Quito school, and unfortunately for Mbamu, he was assigned to teach Standard 2. The ex-Standard 2 teacher was a kind and jovial young man, and Mbamu had looked forward to being in his class. The new teacher, Joseph Akum, with a stiff mustache, was really wicked. On the very first day of the school year, his opening words to his class were, "I want to warn you all that I am used to all dirty tricks by boys. Never think you can deceive me. You will find that I am very hard. You have come to school to learn, not to play. If I catch anyone talking or making noise during class, woe betides him. I shall always consult Dr. Dugu. Do you know him?" "No, sir." Everybody was surprised and anxious to meet the famous doctor, whoever he was. Then a surprising thing happened. The teacher turned round and carefully removed a piece of cane, half a meter long, which he had concealed between his shirt and singlet. He laughed a mirthless laugh and waved the cane several times in the air. "This is Dr. Dugu. He is a very good man if you don't make friends with him. Keep out of trouble." And he struck a vicious stroke on the table as he spat out the words. This made the whole class tremble. After 1 month in the new class, it was quite clear that Mr. Akum had meant every word he had said, although Mbamu had not gotten into trouble because he was fortunate to have known all the answers so far. He was mortally afraid of the day he would get his first thrashing. It was inevitable. Nobody could escape Mr. Akum. Sometimes he did not thrash his victims. He had many sadistic ways of punishing boys. Once a boy was talking at the back of the class when he was writing something on the blackboard. He simply continued writing as if nothing had happened until he finished 5 minutes afterwards and turned around. "Who was talking behind there?" he asked, with that mirthless grin, which foretold trouble. "Stand up," he shouted. Nobody stood for fear of the inevitable punishment. "Stand up, whoever was talking." Okay, after 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see. Nobody is owning up. He walked slowly towards the back of the class. He knew exactly who had been talking because he had heard the voice clearly. "Mulongo, stand up. Were you not the one talking?" Whack! He slapped him hard. "Come out here. Face the wall. Now stand on your right leg. That's right. Bend down and touch the floor with your right finger. So. That's right. Left leg back. That's right. And that will teach you to own up next time." Poor Mulongo maintained this position for the rest of the lesson, which was 20 minutes. He was in tears and sweating all over when he left the spot. One day, a boy came half an hour late to class after the middle day recess. The boy had forgotten to bring his material for handwork in the morning. He knew that he would be punished if he did not show the material during handwork period, which was the last period of the day, so he decided to run home for it during recess. Unfortunately, his house was very far, and before he returned, all the children were back to school. "Where is Adamu?" the teacher had asked when school resumed after the recess. Nobody seemed to know where he was. When he finally walked in, the teacher stopped him at the door. "Where have you been, old Father Adam?" the teacher asked. "Do you realize you are half an hour late? What were you doing? Eating forbidden fruit?" Well, you know what happened to the first Adam? I went to get my homework materials, sir, replied Adamu. Oh, not apples. And why didn't you bring things in the morning, eh? I forgot them in the house, sir. You forgot. I'll teach you never to forget again. Go out and bring a handful of sand. When Adamu returned with the sand, the teacher asked him to spread it thickly on one corner of the classroom. Now kneel on top of that, the teacher said. After that, you will always remember to bring your handwork material at the correct time. One fine morning, Mbamu's log ran out. It was a spelling test, and the teacher had lined everybody along the wall facing him. He started from the left end of the line and asked the first boy to spell a certain word. If the boy spelled it, he kept his position. If not, he moved to the end of the line. The teacher continued down the word line in this manner. Any person who could not spell a word moved to the end of the line. After going round the class several times like this, the boys at the end of the line were inevitably those who had missed the greatest number of words. The class was quite used to this type of spelling test. What they were not used to was the teacher's version of the finale. A few minutes at the end of the lesson, he would call out the last boy in the line and ask him to stretch out their hands, palms facing down, and then with a ruler, he would beat the knuckles of their hands. This would be very painful. On this occasion, Mbamu made a false move. He did not miss a word. He was quite good at spelling. The bell for recess had been rung, and apparently the teacher did not hear it, for he continued with the spelling game as if nothing had happened. Mbamu called his attention to this fact that the bell had been rung. That was his false move. What? Roared the teacher. Do you think I'm deaf? Come out here, you rat. And he literally did exactly what a cat would do. He slapped him, kicked him, knocked him here and there, and before he was through, Mbamu was a sorry sight. He never forgot that day. Mbamu loved poetry. He liked the poems which the new teacher taught them. They were not as childish and meaningless as the nursery rhymes in the earlier classes, like Ride a Coke Horse or Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. The streams where Mbamu had fetched water, whether at home or at Duma or here in Quito, were always in valleys, not up the hill. He had to descend, not climb to get water. However, not everything he learned in school made sense to him. But in Standard 2, he was touched by the poems they learned, and sometimes his eyes became watery with tears as he recited them, or as the teacher recited them. The one which touched him most and which he loved very much, and he always had a mental picture of her when the poem was recited. Who fed me from her gentle breast and laid me on her arms to rest, and on her cheeks sweet kisses blessed, my mother. He would think of the time he was a baby and 10, how his mother used to rock him in her arms, how she used to stroke his hair gently and say, "Oh, such black hair, just like your father's." When pain and sickness made me cry, who gazed upon my weary eye, for fear of pain that I would die, my mother. When I grow up, Mbamu would say to himself, I shall buy my mother a new dress, a pair of high-heel shoes, a new. Mbamu had changed masters again. This time, he was serving a school teacher. There was another boy in the house called Mungo, who was much older than Mbamu and did the heavier chores of the house, while Mbamu fetched water and cleaned the dishes and did other little work. Usually, after cooking the evening meal, the boys in the teacher's quarters came together to play games or tell stories. One evening, Mungo informed Mbamu that there would be a film show. Mbamu, he said, tomorrow they are going to show cinema in the football field. So we must cook and have everything cleaned by 6 o'clock. What is cinema? Mbamu asked. And why have they to show it at night? People will not be able to see it well then. It will be too dark. Oh no, cinema is only seen at night, Mungo replied. But what is it? How is it shown? Mbamu kept on. It is like photographs. It is like, oh, I can't explain it. Wait and see it for yourself. But remember, when we get there, look only at the white cloth on which cinema will be shown. All right. Mbamu was not satisfied. He had never seen a film show before and just did not know what to expect. Actually, Mbamu was not alone in his ignorance. Many people turned out to see the film show for the first time also. Mbamu was in the field well on time, saw the huge lorry arrive, the biggest lorry he had ever seen. He was told that the cinema was kept inside the lorry. He saw the operators put up the screen in the center of the field and the lorry driven some distance away so that it was facing away from the screen. Mbamu wondered why this was done. From the time Mbamu arrived, he sat down on the grass, staring hard at the screen. But he saw nothing there, and he kept wondering why Mungo had told him to watch the screen. When it was sufficiently dark, he saw some light on the screen, and everybody cheered and clapped. Then the light changed to pictures. Not like photographs, but real life pictures, moving as men do. Mbamu was very surprised. As the place became quieter, he heard the purr of the machine coming from the direction of the lorry. He looked behind him and discovered that the pictures traveled in beams of light from the lorry. Astonished, soon the sound came on and the pictures not only moved, but spoke as well. This frightened Mbamu at first. But the men in the screen did much funny things that Mbamu stopped being frightened and joined in the laughter with the rest. There was one very funny man with a long black mustache, but no beard. He moved very fast and jerkily. He carried a long brush which he kept banging at people as he turned corners. And he did many funny things like stepping on people's toes, throwing water on people. He was just a nuisance, a funny nuisance. Later on, Mbamu was told that the funny character was called Charlie Chaplin. After that film show, many boys in the school started to imitate Charlie Chaplin. They walked like him, very swiftly and jerkily. They will step on your toe and squeak like Charlie Chaplin in the film, or simply run in front of you and fall flat on their buttocks and get up all in one go. When turning corners, they would shoot out one leg, squeak and turn the corner. It was quite fun watching them. However, the film show did not end happily. Usually, at the end of each reel, there were a few flashes of light on the screen. At the end of the last reel, there was usually bright and dazzling flash on the screen, and this frightened many people. What was worse was that somebody thought the cinema was on fire and shouted, "Fire!" There was a sudden commotion and everybody started to run. Luckily, it was an air-open show. Otherwise, many would have been seriously wounded. Even so, there were few casualties. Some children were trampled upon, and some people received leg injuries. Luckily for Mbamu, he was right in the center of the crowd, and as people ran outwards, nobody trampled on him. He was very frightened and shaken, however. And that night, he had many nightmares of Charlie Chaplin chasing him all over the crowded school compound with a long brush. Fortunately, his legs were not bent, so he was able to escape and lost Charlie Chaplin in the crowd. That's the end of chapter 8, and we'll do chapter 9. Chapter 9, Empire Day. The 24th of May was Empire Day. This was a great day for all schools, and preparations for Empire Day were usually started early in February. On this day, amongst other highlights, were the inter-school sport competitions. Shields were awarded to the best schools in sports and football. There were junior, medium, and senior teams for boys and girls, but by far the most coveted shield were the shields for senior schools sport and senior football. These were the main shields. The schools who won them were very proud indeed. Long before Empire Day, the various schools organized sport practices during which suitable athletes were selected for the various sporting events. And as Empire Day drew nearer, practice became more and more intensive. The sports masters of the schools were very busy during this period, and he was usually assisted by the various class teachers. There were very few senior primary schools. In fact, in the Quito area, there were only three: the RCM school, the government school, and the Basel Mission School. The government school always won the senior football shield, while the RCM school won the senior sports shield. There were strong rumors that the government school team used to solicit the help of medicine men before any important match. Once in a game against the government school, the goalkeeper of the RCM school said he saw two footballs coming towards him, and when he dived this way to catch one of them, the real one went the other way, into the goal. Whether the goalkeeper invented this story to save himself from embarrassment, or whether he actually saw two balls, nobody knows. The center forward of the RCM team also narrated a similar story. In a certain match against the government school, he was in command of the ball and running towards the goal area of the government school team. He had beaten the halfback and the backs, and he was sure of scoring a goal. As he approached the goal area, he saw the goalkeeper twist his right toe downwards, and suddenly there appeared two sets of goalposts. He shot towards one set, and of course, it was the wrong set. The ball went out. You could not convince the RCM school that the government school played a clean and honest game. So what the RCM school did this time was to spread false rumors that they too would consult a medicine man. In fact, that they would spend the eve of Empire Day in the cemetery with the medicine man. Mbamu did not like sports, neither did he play football much. Actually, this was because he was too shy. He played with his friends, but he hated any public games except as a spectator. He could not face a cheering crowd. He was therefore not concerned with the preparations for Empire Day. What he liked best was the marching. During the last week, the headmaster had told all the children to wash and iron their uniforms. The girls had a blue dress with white trimmings, while the boys had a white shirt and brown khaki shorts. Every school had a different uniform, and this helped to identify children according to schools. During the last week, there was marching practice for 1 hour every morning. All the children will line up, this time not according to class, but simply according to height. And as the band played, they would march round and round the field. The teachers were well spread out along the line of the children, who usually marched in fours. Each teacher was responsible for a group. The headmaster or his assistant will stand in the center of the field facing the children, and from there shout out his orders. By the left, keep time. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, at which the whole school would mark time on the spot, sometimes to the beat of the whistle, or sometimes following the school band. Forward, march, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. If the marching was haphazard, the headmaster would stop the school and shout out admonitions. Swing your arms from your shoulder, not your elbow, and always look right and left to see that you are in line with the rest. May the 24th finally came, and all the children in the RCM school assembled in their field very early in the morning. They were all dressed in their clean uniforms, and it was indeed beautiful to see them gleaming in their bright uniforms. They all assembled in straight lines, in fours according to height. When everybody was ready, the long march to the government school field, which was 2 miles away, began. All public engagements always took place in the government school field because it was very big and flat. The field had been decorated with palm fronds and the grandstand with bunting. Whitewashed fences had been built all around the field to demarcate the spectators from the school children, and special signs had been placed where each school would assemble. They were so arranged as to form a gigantic horseshoe around the grandstand. When the RCM school arrived, the field was already crowded with spectators, and they marched straight on to their area. But it was almost an hour later that the activities really started. "What are we waiting for?" Mbamu asked one of the boys standing behind him. The children were becoming restless and uncomfortable. "We are waiting for the deal," the boy replied. "Who's the deal?" asked Mbamu. "The big white man. Don't you know the deal, you fool?" They were, of course, referring to the district officer, who was respectfully called D.O. by all. There was a little commotion. Someone had sighted the black car of the D.O. Teachers hurried back to their positions and kept their children at attention. Soon the D.O. was in sight, and he was driven gracefully to the grandstand. Out stepped a very tall and heavily built white man, dressed in immaculate white uniform, topped with a white helmet with plumes. He was very graceful as he stepped out and walked in immaculate steps and walked in calculated steps towards the grandstand. As he came to the pole on which the flag hung, the government school band began to play a tune. Immediately, the D.O. stiffened to attention, and all those who were sitting in the grandstand rose, some taking off their hats. Mbamu later found out that the song was called "God Save the King." What happened next was of little interest to most of the school children, and even to the large part of the spectators. The D.O. mounted a platform and started to read from sheets of paper. Very few people heard what he said, there being no microphones, and few still understood what he said. Oh, it was so hot. Everybody was sweating under the hot sun. A girl had fainted where she stood, and the scouts carried her away to the shade of a temporary accident tent built with palm fronds. When would the speech end? The people in the grandstand started to clap, and the wave of clapping spread all over the field. Yes, finally the speech was over, and at last the marching would commence. First went the government school, then the RCM school, then the Basel Mission School, and afterwards that followed the small schools. There was a break after the marching, a welcome break for everybody, especially for the women who had brought food to sell. There were all types of food: akra, koki, puff puff, fried groundnuts, boiled groundnuts, bananas, oranges, bread, sweets, everything. While the children were busy entertaining themselves, the inner part of the field was clean in preparation for the sports. Mbamu was not interested in sports, so he wandered away with some friends, eating and generally enjoying themselves. He was only brought back to the field in the later afternoon when he heard that the RCM school had won the senior sports shield again. His school band was playing and all the boys and girls were jumping and skipping with sheer joy. The girls waving their head ties and the boys their handkerchiefs. This was the third year running that the RCM school had won the senior sports shield. The headmaster and all the teachers were very proud of this. The name of the school would be carved a third time on the shield. But the final event was still to come, the big match. As usual, all other schools had been knocked out, leaving the RCM and government schools for the final. Everybody loved a good game of football, so the field was again as crowded as in the morning. Everybody waiting to see the big match, which was scheduled to start at 4:30 p.m. It would last for an hour except there was a draw, in which case extra time would be given until one team won. At 4:20 p.m., the government school team entered the field amidst loud cheers from the crowd. And as they warmed up, kicking the ball this way and that, there were cheers even louder by their school and other fans. But where was the RCM school team? Not even their captain was in sight. Then someone in the government school side whispered, "They are still making their magic in the cemetery." Soon, the word spread round that the RCM team was casting a spell over the government school team. At 4:20 p.m., the referee came out and blew his whistle, calling on the two captains to come out, toss for their sides. Out of nowhere sprang the RCM captain. Immediately after the toss, he ran to his side of the field and spread out his hands towards his goal area. Out of the mango trees around the field jumped down the remaining 10 players of the RCM team and their reserves. It was so sudden and unexpected that the crowd was taken aback with fright. From each branch of the mango tree, a human fruit dropped down. They ran into the field in single file, ran up to their captain, greeted him, and ran back to the goalpost. There, in an upturned hat, each of the players dropped a lime fruit. Then, as they ran to their respective places on the field, each of them produced a white handkerchief from his pocket and tied this either round his ankle or his waist or his head. This is it. The government school team protested immediately to the referee that the RCM team had made medicine to win the match. "Nonsense," said the referee. "There is nothing in the rules against the use of white handkerchiefs." The whistle went and the great game started. Soon the match was in full swing, and the psychological fear which the RCM team had produced on the government school team wore off. "Away, away," shouted the RCM girls as they waved their head ties in the air, according to their players. "Miss the ball, not the man," shouted the government school boys. It was indeed a thrilling match. Both teams were equally strong. By halftime, no side had scored. After the short break, the game was even fiercer and rougher than before. The referee warned several players, 10 minutes to the end, yet no score. The boys and girls of both sides were shouting their lungs, encouraging their respective players. "Come on, get him. Away, away. Oh!" Then the center forward of the RCM team dribbled past the halfback and the back and went straight for the goal. Just as he was about to shoot To the right corner, he halted and instead shot straight ahead. It was a goal. The field was in a state of hysteria. Shrieks, shouts, commotion. But the government school side was quiet and they remained that way till the end of the game. The final whistle went and the RCM team had won by the lone goal. This meant they had won both shields. A record indeed. Later that evening, the government school goalkeeper was heard to say that he actually saw 4 balls coming towards him. And how was he supposed to know which of them was the right ball? It was a happy RCM school that went home that evening. The members of the football team and some of the best and most popular athletes were carried shoulder high by the big boys of the school. They danced all around the field and through the streets of Quito. The girls carried the 2 shields that had been awarded them in front of the hysterical crowd and chanted over and over again, RCM, hooray! Quito win the game, hooray! And that's where we end for today. We hope you enjoy this read. Be sure to join us next week as we continue our read. Until next time, I'm Nsanda Eba saying thank you for responding to this summon.